Hello, everyone. My name is Alex Smith. I'm a customer success manager with the MindManager Global Sales Enablement and Training Department. Today, we're going to be taking a look at the new feature 2020 edition for MindManager, and it will cover calculations, but we'll also have a bit of smart rules in play. So we'll start out with an overview of smart rules, how they function within the software, and how to make the most out of them within a calculation capacity. Looks like we still have a few attendees trickling in, so I'll just leave the screen here for a moment before we get going. All right, well, thank you for attending today's webinar. Again, my name is Alex Smith. I'm a customer success manager with the Global Sales Enablement and Training Department here at MindManager. I've been with the organization about 11 years, and I've wore different hats over those periods of time. I've been a part of the customer service environment, customer success now, as well as being an account manager and helping out with all kinds of projects, including recording video, working on different kinds of maps and documents, doing some usability testing and things along those lines. So it's my pleasure to present MindManager's 2020 edition for calculations and the ability to automate some of the way that you work in your daily functions. Let's take a look at the agenda, walking through the introduction now. After that, we'll talk through conditional formatting with smart rules and the formula overview. We'll carry on to start creating properties and performing calculations with AutoCalc. And after that, we'll build on that with some complex calculations with the formula editor. After which, we'll also describe the ways that you can use calculating with task attributes. That includes things like duration, progress, as well as the task info that you have assigned. And we will close out with importing information from our Excel environment using the new wizard, the Excel data mapper. And at the end, I have a special file that I'm going to leave you all with, and we will review that template as we are saying goodbyes. So again, thank you for taking the time to attend this webinar. If you do have any questions, you can certainly drop them in the chat window, and I will try to get to them in an orderly fashion. But I do believe that the breakdown here will be pretty straightforward and will be fairly easy to understand. And obviously, I will leave you with the template, and you can test out some of the things that you'll learn today on your own as well. So let's get started. So let's begin by looking at an overview of smart rules. Now, smart rules help to automate processes that you drive within your daily work. They essentially activate triggers that change the topic appearance or the detail. So here in the elements below, I have a couple of different options of examples that I want to share with you. So as you can see, anything that is assigned to Alex with a tag like this will receive a smiley face. So if I drag and drop this tag down below, you'll notice that the smiley face will travel along with it, as well as the resource tag for Alex. That is an example of a simple but yet effective smart rule. Now, throughout this discussion today, these kinds of triggers will be in play, and I will walk through the different ways that you can use them. They are essentially auto formatting for elements for all maps that include things like icons, tags, resources, the properties, the priorities, the properties, and the progress. And here is a screenshot of how those actually are built and the way that they function. So as you see, you start by giving the rule a title. Then you decide whether it applies to all the topics or just specific topics. After that, you'll have to identify what will trigger the change to be a part of the map. As you can see in this example, it's the task due date, and it's anything that is due before today. And as a secondary option, you can choose when all conditions are met or when any conditions are met, and that's a very big distinction to make. You also see that there's a second trigger, and it has to be that the task progress is less than 100%. And I'm just going to take a pause here to review for any chat window questions. I thought I saw an icon pop up. Okay, we are good to go. We'll carry on. After you have a chance to set the triggers, then you will next want to identify what the effect will be if that trigger is found to be true. Well, in this case, you'll adjust the things like the fill color, add an icon, and make the font bold. And obviously, you can choose to manually override some of those changes that you can run through the SmartRules environment, but completely up to you. So now that we've had a chance to at least look at how the rules are developed and the kinds of things that go into building them, let's jump back into our document and discuss a bit further. I'm also using the 2020 feature for thumbnail viewing along with the screenshots that you're seeing here today. Now, taking that a step further, these triggers can also be applied to incomplete branches. So rather than having it tied to a resource tag, such as my name, or the amount of due dates that you have in your project, things along those lines, it can just simply be anything that belongs to a specific branch within your document. So as you'll notice, I'll drag and drop this topic here down to belong to branch, and it will apply all the changes that are associated with that branch specifically. That includes things like listing it as a Q2 element, a third tier priority, and bringing in a progress marker so that as we move through the project, we can actually tick this element off and it will update in real time until it is completed, which is a separate smart rule to show a green check mark as well as a green background on the topic itself. So very quickly, very easily, the software can understand the information that you give it, and it helps you to understand your data better by presenting it back to you with newfound information. So that is an overview of SmartRules. Next, let's take a look at the overview for the formula structure. So we'll start with a property. You'll next need an equal sign, which will then provide a function. Now, after the function, you'll have a set of brackets or parentheses where you identify the topic range or the topic link. And then within a subset of brackets, you'll give a property name or task info, which either you choose, as you'll see throughout the discussion today. And then you can also amend that with some of these operations like addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, exponents, and again, brackets, which we have just covered. Now, as far as the formula overview, let's take a look at the actual buttons that you'll use throughout this process. And to do that, I will actually walk you through just the images, and then I will call them out as we move through the discussion later. So this item here is for adding the different formulas to your list. And that is done on the Advanced tab here at the top of the screen. And you choose the formula option here on the left. And from there, you can hit the plus symbol to add a brand new formula. And as you can see, everything that we will do will be shown here in this box. Now, if you want to remove something that has already been added to your list, that will be your next option down below. And it is also here. Or if you complete your formula and you want to confirm it and save it to make it a part of your map, you use the check mark. To cancel any formulas that you have maybe written incorrectly or no longer need, you use the X item here. Now, the topic properties themselves come from a drop-down list here, and your functions will be available to you here. The topic range will be identified by this button. Your task attributes are listed here. And if you need to select a specific topic, you'll use this option here. Excellent. So I'll go ahead and close out this window. We won't be using it just yet. I did want to at least show you the different buttons and explain the overall formula, function, and structure so that you understand how they need to be built in order to get the best effects out of your map. Next, we'll walk through a Team Kanban scrub board example that looks something like this. And within it, we'll be able to identify the different kinds of topics that we have, i.e. the things that we need to do, the things that are in progress, the things that are being reviewed. We'll also be able to track the cost of each of these elements. As you can see, a master list of calculations in the upper left-hand corner. And we'll also see that the smart rules will be applied as we drag and drop these topics from one column to the other. That information will carry with it value that will help the overall project stay on track and on task and on time. Let's walk through that now. And again, just going to double check for any chat messages before we carry on. Excellent. All right, so as you can see, this topic itself has a small paperclip icon next to it. I'm going to trigger that now, and it will open a brand new document with the Scrum board available to us to customize and use. All right, here we are. Let's zoom out a little bit. All right, excellent. So as you can see, here is a team Kanban scrub board example. It has several different topics all throughout the map, and there are many different rules at play. So before we get started, let's take a look at some of those. We'll go to the Advanced tab here at the top of the screen. We'll look at the Smart Rule environment, and we will choose to edit the rules here in the map, and that will bring open the window. So as you can see, again, all of these are active at any given time, and they have to find the necessary conditions for those triggers to be met. Let's walk through the one for bug, for example. As you can see, the title for this rule is bug. It applies to 24 topics, and it does not have any overrides. But essentially, this topic has a tag with the name item bug. When that happens, the topic itself will have a specific color, which is identified throughout the rest of the document. And obviously, these tally marks here allow you to turn on and off the different features, or enable them, as it says here, enable the different features so that you can see the different variations that you have within your document without having to write the rule over and over again. Go ahead and close that out. So now, to show how it functions, there is a rule in place that identifies whenever this topic is in the to-do or planned environment, it will have a cost or a value of 1. And that value will roll up to this top level here, which is again tallied in the total items area here on the left. So if I move it over to the right, you'll notice that to-do will decrease and in progress will increase by a count of 1. There we are. Now, obviously, we have items that are considered in our backlog. If we drag those over, we don't lose the count because, again, this item will go down, this item will go up. Total number of items will stay at 19. If we add new items, then we will have that functionality increase with us right along the same way. Now, there are separate rules that are applied to the rejected environment as well. So as you can see here, all of this information is easily accessible. And at any moment, you can drag and drop any of these elements to the necessary environments, and the counts will update themselves automatically without affecting the total number of items that are part of your project. So again, this is just a nice example, very simple and very straightforward to show how smart rules work alongside calculations. Now let's take a look at how some of these are actually developed. We'll click on this item here, and it will open the formula window for us, and we can take a look. Now, within this example, we have an actual cost of $0. The actual cost is an example of the total cost based on the general and resource costing of any one of these topics. So as you can see here, there's an environment for the general and resource costing listed here. Michael, the resource on this, is valued at 3,200 euro. That is spread across his effort of 4 days, but the duration of 5 days. And again, high level overview because we will drill down into this a bit further as we move on into the discussion. So jumping back into the calculations webinar now, we'll continue on. Now, some of you may be thinking, well, this is a little bit much. This is kind of hard to do. I don't understand how to present the formula. Well, let's start by looking at creating properties and performing calculations with the AutoCalc feature. That way, as you start to build on your skill set, you'll have a nice foundation to work from. Now, users can create and reuse property sets to standardize the entry of data for their topics for a specific type in their daily work. Now let's take a look at what the property list has available for us to utilize. So here's an overview of the properties that you can apply to any of your topics. Things like numbers, currency, percentage, integers, as well as standard text, and obviously you can carry that on across multiple lines. In addition, you can also have a list of options, which is a drop-down available to you that you preset. In addition to that, you can also have a view of your calendar, as well as time, date and time, and a selector to choose between different variations, either true and false or any other terms that you create for yourself. You can also link to file locations and embed color within the properties also. So again, all of these will come into account as you're creating your formulas over time. For now, let's walk through using the AutoCalc function to add new formulas into our document. We'll zoom back out here, and I'll give you a brief overview of how that process works. So in this example, we have a team map as well as two individual maps. The team map consists of 3 different members of a team, persons A, B, and C. Now, above, persons B and C are listed in a different order, and I did that on purpose because I want you to realize that these are 2 separate individuals carrying on their own separate projects and have the ability to then roll that information up to a team dashboard environment with all of their calculations applied through the AutoCalc tool. And we'll walk through that example right now. So by clicking on B3, I can choose to go to the advanced option and I can start the AutoCalc. Now, once that happens, I'll be greeted with a pop-out window and will ask me to explain some of the elements that I want to use as a part of the calculation. Well, in this topic, I want to set the cost, which is going to be a property, to the sum of the first amount. There we go. And it will apply to the range of descendants. And I do want it to populate the topic range for any of the topics that I have down below. And I want it to be a currency rather than a number. So I'll trigger this option here also. And then I'll click OK. Now, once that happens, you'll see that B3 now can carry a cost, which is going to be a reflection of all of the topics down below that have the word amount in them. And let's add some values here. So 1, 2, and 3. And as you can see, each time this number increases, so does the cost for person B3. And to walk through that a second time, I'll use person C as well. And I'm going to go to the Advanced tab, use the AutoCalc function, and wait for my pop-out window. There we are. So the first item is going to be set as the cost, which is a property, and we want the sum of that based on the amount of any of the descendants. And we do want it to populate the topic range, which is this section here, the amount, and we want that applied to these 3 topics down below C3. We also want to make sure that it is a currency, and then we can click OK. So as you can see, all of the elements are now added into our map on an individual daily work environment. So this person C, can come into their document on Monday morning, and they know exactly where their costs are being applied and how much they're spending. They can also track other elements of their daily work here along the left side without ever including any of these elements in the team dashboard. But once these items are completely done and updated, the team dashboard environment can always be refreshed to show the latest look at any of that data. Let's walk through that now. By clicking on the map rollup icon here, I have the option to refresh the map rollup. And as you can see, all of the tallies that came from person C are now available to us, as well as refreshing the map again for person B. And here we are. And of course, the team dashboard would account for other parties that are not a part of this document. So here's an example of person A3 carrying their own values as well. Now, the great thing about this is that even with AutoCalc completely functional, you can also add it to an area that has not had any calculations yet. So I'll click on the Add tab right here, and now we can set the total cost, or maybe the team cost, to the sum of the first property, and we are looking for cost in all of the descendants. However, we don't need it to populate the range because it's already populated for us, and it will be a currency. There we are. So as you'll notice, we now see the entire team's cost, which accounts for persons C3 and B3 individually as one total team number. And that is adding properties, as well as formulas using the AutoCalc function. And I will check for any chat messages just to be sure there aren't any questions at this time, and then we'll carry on. Excellent. So very quickly, you can go from a standard regular document with no data, no calculations, no smart rules within a matter of a few minutes based on some of these very high level examples. You can start using the AutoCalc feature to bring in that data in a moment's notice. Let's zoom back out and we'll continue on in our discussion. Now, once you've created those kinds of dashboarding environments and you start to see the projects that you're running from team capacity, and you understand the duration that someone applies to, the level of effort that they're going to amend the topics with, the amount that you're going to be paying per hour for cost, all of those things start to come into account, and you'll want to have more complex calculations with your formula editor. And that is also possible once you understand the basic rules of how the formulas are structured. So as you'll see here, overviews can be created across multiple projects and departments in order to have all the information available at a single glance. And that is what you're seeing here in this new example. We have a list of our developers, our designers, and our quality assurance team, and they're all performing separate functions, and they all have a cost and a budget associated with those functions that they'll be providing. There are also elements that we can see here in the task info area, and we'll zoom in now. We can see the tags for the locations of the global teams that are going to be a part of the projects. We can identify the start and due dates, the complete duration for the task itself, and obviously, as we've seen before, all of the costing information is rolling up from a bottom-up perspective. Now, the advanced functionality that we're talking about with these complex examples is the fact that you can embed calculations within your property list so that you can see more about the detail that you have. Obviously, you can see that the budget is very high. The actual cost that we've spent, we have not reached that yet. But if you wanted a true assessment of the load amount, you can do that using an advanced formula that you would not necessarily get out of using the AutoCalc function unless you tweaked it a bit. Well, here you can write your own kind of function. Load is equal to the actual divided by the budget, which is very different from the types of formulas that we were writing before. As you can see, we were writing formulas that included the sum and that were actually adding up elements from the descendants that had a specific property named to them. Well, in this example, we have no sum, but we are dividing instead by two elements that are already predefined based on the topics down below. Let's zoom back out here and we'll carry on. So once those elements are applied to your map, you have a bit more of an advanced functionality within the document. So here's an example of building a house using the MindManager's tracking of resources and doing advanced calculations using the task attributes that are available to us at any time. Well, as you can see, we have different sections of the home: the walls, the roof, the electrical, and the plumbing systems, all taking into two different categories: the shell of the building as well as the technology of the building. Now, all of that information does roll up to the highest level so that we get a total cost as well as a total number of work days. And if you hover over that, you'll get to see it a bit better. So our general costs are listed at $4,500, whereas our resource costs are well over $10,000, giving us a total cost of just under $15,000. Now, the way that these numbers are derived is also a way that you can calculate within the SmartRules environment, and I'll show you a brief example of how that works now. So as you can see, this topic here has a resource cost of $2,688 with a total cost of $5,688. Those numbers are directly derived from the task info pane here on the left side of the screen. So as you'll notice, the task info pane is now open and all of the topic information for that specific item, 1.2 roof truss, is available to us. We can see the priority, the level of progress, as well as the start and due dates, the amount of work days, as well as the total amount of effort, which is a different number based on the fact that we have two separate resources that will be applying their effort and time over that 3-day span of time. Now, when we start to talk about the cost aspects of this, you can see that the general cost is $3,000. That could be things like materials that are just a set cost that have no bearing on how long the project may take. Whereas a resource cost is derived directly from that resource, and we can choose to click this option and edit the resource rates, and we'll be able to take a look at those a bit closer. So unlike general costs, these are a bit more variable. They are always fluctuating depending on how many hours per week someone is working, the total number of the rate that they're going to be paid for those hours, and so on and so forth. And so there's a small calculation going on here in the background where you're multiplying the total number of hours by the standard rate, and then you're given the total cost down below. So let's click OK, and we've seen that. And so as you can see, the resource cost is also added to the general cost, which gives us the total cost element of $5,688. Now, how does that play into the formulas up above? Well, if you take a look at the formula line just here, you'll see that cost incurred, right, this item here, is actually tallying up the total resource cost. That's this long one-worded kind of jumble here, total resource cost, and it multiplies that by the progress of the same topic. So as you can see, the progress is listed at 50%. So it's taking the total resource cost, multiplying that by progress, and then adding it to the general cost, which is multiplied by any task, any topics that have the to-do element within them. And that's the to-do sign here, any of those tags listed there. So your incurred cost is directly related to the amount of progress that you've actually achieved over the lifespan of your project. That takes into account the total number of work days, the total number of hours and effort that has gone into it, and how much you've actually paid that person to conduct that task on your behalf. And checking again for any questions within the chat window. All righty, looks like we're good to go. All right, and next we'll talk about using all of what we've learned in conjunction with the SmartRules environment that we have as a part of the Excel data mapper. And that includes the ability to bring in sources of information from Excel and work them up and make them a part of your daily functional business case, and getting the most out of that data. Well, let's take a look at what the data would look like just as a standard Excel related file. Using this paperclip icon, I have the option of pulling open that file directly alongside my mind map. So as you can see, very straightforward Excel document, several different columns, all with a header. And basically, this is the tracking of costs for putting on different styles of events, some road shows, some fairs, some Congress, and obviously being able to associate that cost with the number of participants that were in attendance and the different regions that you support with your initiatives. So everyone can understand Excel document, read it from left to right, top to bottom, sort of thing. But let's say you want to mark this up, you want to use this information as the source of driving the next phase of your project, and you're going to use MindManager to do that. Well, here's how all of what you've learned so far can be brought together in one of those environments in real time. So let's open up an example document where we can start to bring in some of those calculations. So immediately you see here within the example, we've already set up some of the costs that we're going to be looking at. But again, if I hover over that, you'll see exactly where these numbers are coming from. The total cost is the sum of the descendants with the title sum cost. And so as you'll see, as we import information from our Excel environment, anything that you preset has a value that is understood by the SmartRules as well as the calculations when you bring in that data from an Excel. So you're not doing double work. You literally create the document one time, save it as a template for the rest of your organization to use, and anytime they need to import a new file, they've got it at their fingertips, and the transition as easy as possible. So we'll click on this topic here, and then we will initiate the Microsoft and the Excel data mapper. So as you can see here, we have a list of how we're going to bring in the information, whether that be by type or by region. In fact, I'm going to start with region and we'll adjust it to type later on. And I will apply all of those changes to our document. And we have to select the file first. So let's go back one screen. There we are. Open it from that location. Let's choose a preset. That looks good. Okay. Uh-oh, looks like we've lost the document. All right, well, let's open up a brand new file and we'll start from scratch. There we are. And now let's see if the file does actually work. We'll take the selected topic, use our import data, apply our preset configurations, and apply. Excellent. So now within the document, you can see all of the elements have been brought in, but all of our smart rules were applied to our previous example, so they did not come over along with it. But all of our information is now broken down by region. If we wanted to see this in another way, we could adjust the formatting, change our layout to more of an org chart fashion so that we can see each event from a top-down capacity based on the region that they are setting. Well, let's say we want to adjust this data and maybe we're not looking at it from a regional perspective, but rather maybe the type of service that we're going to be providing. Well, we'll go up here to the top of the screen, change the region, include type instead, and now we can reapply this information and it will reload in real time. And here we are. So all of that information is always in flux, always changing, and MindManager is available to adapt to the different needs that you'll see at any given time. But as you can see here, we've now sorted them by the type of event that they are, whether that be a roadshow, a fair, or a congress, but all of the cost-related associated fees and things like that are also available to us, and they roll up to the highest level, so we can see exactly the amount that we're spending on the fair, the roadshow, or the congress. Now, let's say that we want to use this information with that pre-built environment like we were describing. I'm going to go ahead and shut down this file completely. And now that we've had a chance to walk through it once, I want you to see the functionality that it also carries with the SmartRules environment at play as well. So let's try to open that document a second time, and we'll walk through it again now that we have confirmed that the file does work. So we'll import, we will choose our preset. Those look good, and we will apply it based on the region. There we go. Excellent. So as you can see, again, the document has loaded that information, this time after relaunching the file. Maybe there was a bit of a bug in the system, but after relaunching the file, everything has populated accordingly. And now all of the tasks are rolling up, and we can see based on this marker that we are within budget. That is a smart rule that is defining what the budget should be based on this number here, 95,000 euro. Whereas if we were to go over budget by spending too much on one of these events, we would see that this marker would be removed and our smart rules would apply in different capacities. Let's take a look. So within the SmartRules environment, I'm going to choose to edit the rules, and we'll take a look at that element for in budget. So as you can see, 21 topics apply if the percentage of the budget consumption is less than 100%. Now, if we're over budget, obviously the percentage of the budget consumption would be above 100%. The marker item would change. And so as you can see, our budget is highly trackable within MindManager. But again, we're talking about using this to tackle scenarios. And if we actually add a new environment, we can change this version to render the type versus the region. So we'll trigger here, change it to type, and apply. So our single source of data coming from Excel now has two different representations within it using the MindManager Excel data mapper, and brings all of the valuable information from Excel and amplifies that by making it accessible in a mapping canvas. As you can see, everything broken down by region is still available to us here on the left, but we've also got a comparison that is now based on the type of event that we will be running. All of that information does obviously roll up to the highest level, and as I pointed out before, our budget is now completely over budget because we are tallying the same sets of sources of information twice. So if you want to remove that, you can simply drag this topic out of connection, and here we are. So again, using the MindManager environment is not a replacement for Excel. We're not trying to outdo Excel. We just want to do what MindManager does well by making the data you have in Excel that much more powerful. Now, taking that kind of idea a step further, we can also use separate views within the MindManager environment now that we've got these calculations into our document by, again, importing from the Excel environment that we were previously in. By using view here at the top of the screen, I can actually take a look at the different icons that we have within our map. So as you can see within the icon view, and I'll shut that down, you can see all of the approved items, the things that are in a planning stage, things that are still open, and obviously the items that were canceled as a part of them maybe being too high priced, or throwing our budget out of whack, or maybe just the timing didn't work out for the events themselves. But again, MindManager allows you the flexibility to bring that data from an Excel-like environment, open up a mapping document, import that information, and mark it up to your heart's content, using things like icons, carrying over the calculations, and automating that process so that every time you have a new project to do, you can open one MindManager template, import everything, all of your smart rules, all of your calculations, everything is predefined, and it makes that streamlined process a bit smoother, and it reduces the ability for user error, for manual overhead costs. All of that is brought down by utilizing the MindManager calculation method. So we'll jump back here into the view and we'll look at it as a map again, one last time. And again, this environment also allows you to filter information as well. So if you only wanted to see the approved items, you could find this marker anywhere in the map, choose to right click on that, and then you have the option to quick filter to show topics with that marker. So as you can see, based on the type of event that we're going to be putting on, these are the only 5 elements that are approved. So that way, if we wanted to look at a total cost scenario for only the items that have been approved and see what that kind of budget consumption has actually applied, at your fingertips in a moment's notice without any heavy lifting at all. Let's go ahead and jump back into our calculations webinar. We are coming up to the end of our discussion today, and I wanted to definitely leave you with something that would be more beneficial for you in the long run, and that is a template that comes with the software that has some pre-built formulas that will allow you to have a bit of a starting place to start to work through some of these calculations for yourselves. So this is the actual template, and as you can see, it starts from a left to right kind of environment, but let's take a look at the way that it's developed. So these are the view conversions. As you can see, it takes into account the entire map, so all map topics with the term view as the property, and it's dividing all of the map topics that say sessions, which is listed here. So the value of that session is 5,000, and the product views are 4,400. And as you can see here, the view conversion percentage is directly derived from the total number of views divided by the number of sessions, which is listed at 88%. Now this element here is just an average view conversion that we found on the internet, and we've applied that as a part of a SMART rule. So not only is this example an example for formulas, but an example for SMART rules as well. So when you have a chance, go to the file menu here at the top of the screen. When you go to new, you can drop all the way down to SMART rules right here, and you can actually test this example out for yourself. It's got all of the pre-built formulas and SMART rules within it, and you can obviously update those and tweak them to whatever your needs are. But again, my name is Alex Smith. I am a customer success manager with the Global Sales Enablement and Training Department here at MindManager. I hope that today has been very valuable for you and that you have a greater understanding of the power that MindManager possesses and how you can apply that in your daily work. If you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'm more than happy to walk through this privately with any of your specific needs at hand. And obviously, this webinar is being recorded, so you will have a chance to rewatch it and to pick up anything that you may have missed overall. One last check in the chat window to see if there are any final questions, and it looks like we are A-OK there. So again, I want to thank you all for attending, and remember, work connected with MindManager 2020 from Windows. Thank you so much, and have a great day.